Initially, I wasn't wanting to do a video about my trip to the valley, buying some this and some, other stuff. But now I got into this restaurant and I'm reading a Swiss magazine, a real recent one. Well, you can read it, it's not sharp though. So what am I reading here about the climate lie, which it is, because it's not existent the way they say it is. So now they say that, there is, again, nice pictures. So whenever people demonstrate, you find a lot of nice pictures. And these like hand gesture communication that was happening on Occupy as well, I didn't like at all, like waving the hand, you agree, and that one I never saw. So it was when you don't do this one, you don't agree. And then that one I never saw as well. So these youth nowadays want the climate and the world to sustain. So now, of course, the youth not knowing about stuff, that's the reason why they are put into media that much, because all the young stars, they are out there because they have no real life experience, so they cannot really teach you coherent ideas. They might be good in some sort of a area or topic, and by that they can like sing good songs or are good in some sort of a sport and stuff. But now that there is this guy saying that there is even he says, people don't really like the climate catastrophe demonstrations. So he comes up with a term that is called climate, and it's not catastrophe, it's just climate denial machinery. So it's like, he says it's the oil and coal and gas industry and conservative think tanks and the media, and especially the US channel Fox News that does so. But in my view, since the climate is changing by itself and has to do so, so you might Google Maunder minimum, because that one states that not just ice ages exist, but also really regular ups and downs of the temperature on Earth. And by that, they knew in before that there is going to be a temperature rising. So because of that, they have thought of a way to tax people, and that's by steering the media, giving us that fear that we're not going to sustain because of that. So the youth doesn't know better because they have always had these media around and haven't been taught anything else. But on the anti-censory coalition, AZK, in Switzerland, you can learn that a guy called Bachmann was in the US military as a German, and he was listening in his holidays to some people saying that they knew that there is going to be this temperature rise. So they thought of this scheme to tax people because of that, the CO2 tax, kind of. And he was actually experiencing it. People around him were talking about it. So he's having a lecture out. He's called Bachmann. So Bachmann. And he actually, nowadays, even though having been in the US military something, or having had friends in the US military, I don't really recall, now he's sort of on the green side, sort of, So he says, it's just the newspaper asks him, well, do you think that this sounds a bit like a Verschwörungstheorie? Again, they mix this word with this topic, so you don't really know what to think about it. So fact is, the Downer or Maunder minimum states that there are ups and downs, and since the 1970s there are more volcano eruptions and earthquakes as well, so that's also a reason. They know that the world is getting hotter because those volcanoes are erupting more often. So that's this news magazine. It's kind of like, I think, out weekly, so people really go to the kiosk, as it is called in Switzerland, and they buy these things. So of course, when the youth goes out demonstrating, you have really nice pictures, and these faces really don't know better, so you cannot be angry at them, but all the journalists, they should know that there isn't really this kind of climate problem happening, because there is always a balance between the CO2 in the air and the CO2 in the world seas. So when there is a rise in the air, it gets into the seas. And also all the plants depend, don't they learn that at school? Depend upon CO2. So when there isn't any CO2 to breathe for the plants, they will just all vanish. So in the tundra in Russia, where there isn't any trees, it's said to be changing when there is too much heat, as we now are experiencing, and also too much CO2. Up there, trees will grow. So that one will be the outcome, and not us dying, So, yeah, they fill a few more pages in their magazine with this topic, but you don't need to read it if you want kind of know that, youngsters beyond 40 years of age in the Indian tradition, you didn't ask those people, but once you've been 40, you were the counselor to everyone, because then your life experience was big enough so that you could contemplate on a lot of topics. Not being a specialist is very important as well. So you don't need to read that one because it's just nice pictures, basically. Yeah. But kind of to see that all the media are in on it. So it's not that there is a, green or alternative or whatever media. It's really just, there is just the elite media out there. I made a video about the 6 media conglomerates, and they seem to have merged into 5, I heard. So I'm not really sure, but 6 or 5, it doesn't matter. It's just not a lot. So yeah, there you go about this topic about the climate warming that is existing, but it's not human-made. It is a natural, just up and down on the climate. So yeah. Here they say no sugar. Oh, I can't do that. I just need sugar a lot. I'm addicted to it. Wow, I love these old kind of pictures where you see how people used to live. What the plates looked like and what the hairdo of the people was. It didn't get into the way too much because otherwise you would have to wash your hair too often. So bye-bye on climate warming.